Welcome to the Week in Italian Startup, where we discuss the latest highlights happening in the Italian tech and investment ecosystem. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Week in Italian Startup, where Nicola and I will discuss the latest news happening in the Italian tech ecosystem. Welcome, Nick.
Ciao, Jack. Hello, everybody.
All right, let's get going. Let's talk about fundraise. There are a few very interesting capital being raised. Let's talk about M&A because also in Italian fintech abroad has been pushing. So let's start from that, but let's go in order. So the first thing I would like to talk with you is Nanophoria, Milan-based biotech startup raising 3.5 million from Sofinnova. This being essentially the biggest round of last week. I would say, excluding the M&A transaction, that's really what has been happening. So very good news in terms of what has been happening in the Italian healthcare and biotech early stage ecosystem, because I was looking into the Sofinnova kind of strategy, and it was extremely interesting because, of course, Sofinnova is a huge company and they have a ton of partners. And it's a multi-fund strategy, so they have different kind of funds investing in a very big spectrum actually of phases of healthcare startups. The last one that they kind of activated is very specific, is in conjunction with the Telethon Foundation, and it's focused on Italian biotech. That's extremely interesting. Yeah.
Yep. But we met. This fund is let's call it a brother of other funds that we've met in this podcast, because it actually raised funding from the tech transfer program set up a few years ago by CDP and the European Investment Fund. Eureka is another of these funds, Eureka Ventures, then 360, the Poly 360 is the name. So they're basically technology transfer funds focused on investing in technology coming out of university and research centers. And Nanophoria is exactly one of these startups. It's a spin-off of the National Research Agency of Italy, the CNR. And having said that, I have no idea what they do, since as you know, this is not
I know exactly
my area, but looks cool.
Absolutely.
Drug delivery platforms.
Yeah, exactly. Very technical. Seems like the seed rounds for healthcare is tendentially bigger than general, like seed funding in general. I would say they probably feel like at least to have like a higher average, depending on compared to maybe other rounds. At least that's my intuitive feeling. I don't know what you think about it.
I don't have hard data about it, but maybe that's true, and maybe because earlier stages of funding are possibly coming from grants or similar non-equity based capital in order to support the very initial stages. And everything that probably getting and going through the various phases of research and development for drugs related technologies
totally
takes more capital at the beginning. I cannot imagine consumables, instruments, specialized researchers, so probably there are more costs at the very beginning.
Makes sense. Awesome. Let's move on. The second big deal of the week is Flyted, a very cool application of drone technology. We understand this one better, I think, Nick. This is essentially a company that is adapting drones to deliver digital twins of buildings and infrastructure in order to sort of monitor and provide just basically data collection through drones. That's the idea. Yeah, and I thought it was very cool because that's one of a very intensive application of drone technology. If there is one beside having fun like flying around. This is really what a lot of people I've seen doing, honestly, both for more sort of development, like building development, real estate deals. Inspection is pretty huge, and flaw detections and all of that part. It's definitely it's a well-populated space, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. As probably drone technology is maturing and drones are becoming more versatile and equipped with better technology, we are seeing quite a few startups, companies offering this service. But again, maybe I believe that for various reasons, the interesting plays on the software side. So on the ability to actually transfer image into something actionable. You were mentioning digital twins. Yes, just from a visible point of view, also from an engineering point of view, so something that you can actually model and emulate something on. That's probably the interesting bit of this type of offerings. So I don't know whether they offer something advanced in this case, but
definitely useful. I think easy to sell in terms of value proposition, I would say. It's a very useful technology for sure.
And in this case, the investor is CDP with the relaunch fund.
Yeah.
That's basically, I believe, doubling down on a seed investment that the company raised in 2021 from AVM Gestioni. Yeah. Another investor.
Another example of sort of a deal from AVM Gestioni, which we've seen active, especially in Q1, Q2. So that's they've been like working extremely hard. It's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know whether they invested in this startup with the Sizero fund, because that's probably the one that originally invested, because that's the robotic and cybersecurity one. The article doesn't mention
talent, it. The talent fund, the Uveca talent.
No, there you are. The talent Uveca. So another type of funds. Okay.
So for the listener, we've seen AVM Gestioni kind of launching different kinds of fund structures to support extremely precise verticals. Sizero is one supporting robotics and cybersecurity. And the other one is this Talent Uveca, which is also working on early stage technologies. So interesting. I like the idea of actually verticalized fund, like we said the other time. It's powerful. It's very powerful. Mm-hmm. All right, let's move to M&As. Let's move to M&As and fintech. Basically, two great news happening. Basically, happening in TechCrunch also. First one being Nexi. Italian payment giants buying Orderbird for $150 million. So that's pretty impressive. Also, like a very good consolidation strategy for Nexi, and that's not the first actually that they've been doing. So they've been acquiring Danish-based Nets and some other Italian companies working on payment infrastructure essentially. So now they're expanding in Germany. Yeah.
Yep, they've been on an acquisition spree in the last couple of years, I believe. They made a few very important acquisitions. CI is one, and the Nets is the other in terms of size of the deal and complexity of the company. So this one is relatively smaller in terms of deal. I found it interesting that the amount paid for the startup is in that range, $140-150 million, while the company raised, I believe, around $55 million in total. Wow. I think the article says it.
Yeah. Yeah,
so we might be tempted into doing some kind of mental calculation about for the investors. But we should take a look at the full investment schedule and when the startup raised what and how much to have a better view. Actually, let me take a quick view on that.
Yeah, and as you look for it, what is interesting is also that they don't look they're slowing down anytime soon. In the article also mentioned like an interest for Toast, which is a US restaurant point of sale, which is a giant essentially, and that's definitely like something that goes a little bit beyond, but expanding in different parts of the business. So that's pretty cool.
Curiously, on Crunchbase, for example, the company appears to. Okay, it was acquired through Nets, not directly by Nexi, or at least this is what Crunchbase is reporting. And they raised the latest raise that I can see is from 2016, 20 million.
Interesting.
Maybe an okay deal. I mean, 20 million last time was like 6 years ago.
Not too bad.
That's probably an okay deal at least for the last investor.
Yeah. Awesome. Moving on, talking about Italian founders abroad, basically the founders of Yapily. Yapily in particular acquired FinAPI, which is a German open banking platform. So if we check on that, Yapily is essentially helping to transition to the banks and financial institutions and basically fintech startups to transition in the new generation of interconnected banking in general. They've been playing. I mean, we talked about open banking before, and I think it's very much on the rise, simply because there is this huge need, which I was reading actually. I was not aware of it. Apparently, there is the European regulation PSD2 requires banks to offer APIs or an access to APIs. Maybe you mentioned it the other time. Maybe I think you did. And that's powerful because that only single regulation creates like businesses essentially, which is the case of Yapily and everything else that derived from it. So that's pretty awesome.
And I find it amusing that two of the main players in Europe are actually UK-based companies with Italian founders. That's interesting. Both Yapily and TrueLayer.
TrueLayer. Yeah, that's where we talked about TrueLayer. Yeah, yeah.
I find that interesting.
Yeah, I mean, England still is the capital of fintech in Europe. That's probably the subliminal message right now.
But that's interesting. I mean, that's not so interesting because you're right. London is still the de facto capital for that. But that's two of the main players are founded by Italians. That's more surprising. I mean, unexpected, not surprising.
Yeah. Interesting.
And the good news, I would say.
Yeah. Talking about banks, let's talk about the integration that Sella SGR is doing with MDOTM. Exactly. Apologies for the mispronunciation. MDOTM, exactly. MDOTM is basically, they have like proprietary technology that support investment decision making. And Sella is closing a partnership with them in order to adopt their services and their technology to actually guide investment decision making within the SGR. So I'll be very curious to actually understand how exactly that would play a role in the flow, in the investment flow, and how exactly they're integrating it. That's super interesting.
I found that news fascinating because Sella is basically a very advanced bank in terms of technology adoption and investment technology. Yeah. But still, this is different than investing in technology. This is actually adopting technology that's still in the early stages into one of your core services, so asset management. That was interesting. And we'll see whether the news report any improvement on the quality of the investments of the Sella SGR.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
Great. Moving on, let's talk about the two different funds that have been opened. Public funds from the Italian government, actually. So last week we talked about the government making a position on women founders. Last week, the week before, 2 weeks before. Last week, the position is about Digital Transition Fund and Green Transition Fund. So 2 different allocations. Again, pushing the ecosystem in different directions. Again, we can talk about how overlapping that is or not with everything that has been going on with CDP in a billion different ways, but that's another hour of discussion in a different podcast, I would say. So it's good. It's all good because it's all definitely money trying to support the Italian economy in multiple different directions. So that's definitely on the positive side. And it's not limited only to startup. It's also PMIs, so small and medium enterprise, and that's good news overall, I would say.
Yeah, both funds are quite, they're quite welcome in terms of new money in the ecosystem. $500 million of new investment capital is more than welcome. Even though I would say that between CDP and these funds and the other type of financing sources related to the public in particular. Yeah. At this time, there is a lot of capital going after not so many good deals. So hopefully demand and supply will find a new equilibrium where hopefully, there will be more interesting deals coming up. We'll see. Yeah. CDP is, of course, involved in managing this money, in particular the Digital Transformation Fund, I believe, will work together with CDP and will invest together with CDP and with other private funds in Italy.
There you go. Co-investments. Yeah, great. It's a co-investment structure. Very good. Yeah.
And the Green Transition Fund, I couldn't really understand from the description whether it will be just a fund of funds or direct investments. It's not so clear. Yeah. But from the notes, it says that it will invest a lot in the tech transfer stage. If you think about it, clean economies and green technologies might require more investments upfront, rather than this differently from pure software plays.
And it looks like it's pretty broad-based because they said that also they would invest in venture capital funds, startups, incubators, and acceleration programs. So that they're really including completely the horizontal ecosystem. Let's see how it moves for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Everything, so nothing. I mean, it's the same. I don't know.
But hopefully, tough to say. Moving on, let's talk about the latest accelerator from my favorite, CDP Ventures. We are at 13 accelerator program. Now is Vita, essentially, about digital health in general. I was pretty surprised about the allocation. It's 6.3 million, which is unusual. I mean, it's kind of particular, I would say. So either they're really going extremely deep and extremely specialized and sort of laser, targeting something with extreme laser focus, and that would make sense. But yeah, there was a vertical that definitely kind of was missing in the list. I was checking again the list, and I believe, there are some sort of hints of healthcare about the next stage, if you will. So there is a few overlappings. And that is pretty much it. And we were expecting that. So again, bets are open for the next accelerator, what vertical is going to be.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to ask you, where do you put your money on the next one?
I'm waiting for the Web3, man. I'm waiting for the Web3.
Yeah. The Fin plus Tech is probably the one closer to the Web3, but...
Exactly.
Not there yet.
Not there yet, probably. Yeah, that's it's kind of a leap. It's pretty much of a leap, so not too sure it's gonna happen.
Regarding what you were saying, do you believe that 6.3 million is high, low?
No, I thought it was pretty modest allocation, actually, pretty low.
Low.
Yes. Yeah. And because usually we have a allocation in the 50 million to 100 millions range, and this is like kind of okay, what's happening here, how it's gonna be managed, and or maybe there is just a first closing kind of deal, and then they're gonna allocate more. I don't know. I thought it was.
No, I believe that in accelerators they tend to invest more or less this amount of money between the 4 and the 6 millions, depending also from the partners. I don't know whether there have been exceptions where there was more money put on the table. I don't know.
Yeah, I was checking.
It sounds about average in terms of what
average.
they've been doing so far. Yeah. Then probably the conversation about what you can do in life science with 6 million in 3 years in 20 startups per batch. It's probably a totally different type of question, but still.
That's a good point. Yeah. I don't know. It seems that I don't know how far that kind of volume would actually bring without a follow-on strategy. That's my question. Probably that's a better way to look at the problem.
But that's a good point. But consider that, as a matter of fact, the Accelerator fund from CDP, the one sponsoring and launching these accelerators, is the one who tends to operate as a follow-on investor. So they tend to be, from my knowledge and what I've seen so far, they tend to be ready to double down and start coming out of the accelerators they launched. So there is no direct involvement somehow from the accelerator. They are ready to take specific investment decisions on a one-by-one basis.
Interesting.
From what I've seen.
Yeah. Makes sense. All right. Nico, on a closing note, I just want to give people, the listener, a shout out to the article you mentioned, which I thought it was very interesting. Why a 4 or 5x return on investment isn't good enough for early stage VCs. Written by the amazing Jason Lemkin. So that's definitely a read that people should definitely check it out, and it's the link is in Nicolo's newsletter. Great read for the week, so people check it out. And with this, thank you so much for joining. We are available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast every week, and we'll be here again next week. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Jack. It was a pleasure. See you in a week.